Hi, student. How are you today? This is our first class. So, in the beginning, I would like to introduce myself. I'm your professor. My name is Faisal Bachari. I'm a professor for International Business Management course. We will be working together the next 3 months to set you up for better understanding of the business, international business, and how it's supposed to be done. Now, in the beginning, let me just introduce a very brief about my history, my CV. As I said, my name is Faisal Bachara. I done my high school and undergraduate and graduate studies in Canada. That was like around 30 years ago. And I've done my high school in university and in Winnipeg. And then I done my undergraduate studies, a Bachelor of Business in the University of Winnipeg, and at the same time I did my diploma in Business Information System in also in Winnipeg. Meanwhile, I was working there, and I started working with a chartered accounting firm where I was doing some auditing, and then eventually I started working as a in part of the United Nations, which is United Way, which is I help the new settlers, the newcomers, to understand how to live in Canada, from simple stuff like getting it on the bus until applying for income tax or applying for education or setting up their future. Then I done my graduate studies in the international business, which is that was during the NAFTA time where they were signing Chile, so they wanted people specialized in the international business. So I've done my graduate studies, and once I've done with my graduate studies. I get a job offer in Abu Dhabi, so I went to Abu Dhabi, UAE, and there I worked as a product manager and a project manager for implementation for HR SAP, which is I was working with a German implementation team to implement for Abu Dhabi's gas, which is at gas, and Abu Dhabi's gas you provide gas for all UAE. After 1 year, we finished the implementation and went live. It was a very complicated project. Uh, we uh, I got a job offer with Ejman University for Science and Technology. There, I was teaching second year and fourth year commerce students, and also in the same time was HR manager and in charge of implementing HR, Oracle HR, and Oracle Financial, helping them to implement it as a customer. So I was like traveling a lot between Kuwait and Canada. So I decided to pick one of these countries. So suddenly I got an offer from Kuwait, and then when I started working for that company, turned out to be the biggest software integrated company, or in general integration company, because they did the hardware and software together, and they are the biggest in Middle East and North Africa with 3,000 IT consultant. They are located in 28 city in 22 countries. And we mainly focus on banking solution, telecommunication solution, and higher education. Keep in mind, we were focusing on a tier 1 core solution, which was a little bit difficult. And I've worked with it. I was in charge of starting and establishing a higher education solution. So I was living on the plane, traveling from a city to city, trying to integrate all the efforts and establish the market for them also. And we were, very successful. and we managed to do a lot of implementation. After that, after 13 years working with them, decided to establish my own company here, where we did the first mobile application implementation for the government of Kuwait. And I had my team located in Chennai, India, in Ukraine, Kiev, and in Russia. And we were working all together, implementing for mobile application in Kuwait. Anyway, so then we moved from there as me and my partners are from India. We moved to Iraq and we start implementing a software and services and hardware with LG. And we had our own software, which is a SIS, Student Information System, and Learning Management System, plus a Content Management System. And LG came up with their hardwares and fiber optic solutions. So we um, became one company and started implementing a few universities in Iraq. Then from there, I just wanted to move back to Canada. Try was a bit tired of traveling a lot between countries. So we I got working with as a partner with some company, which is we will be talking about it later on and give you some assignment probably about it. Called One Global Money or OG Money, and basically they provided some solution in the value added service or VAS, which is MVAS, mobile value added service. The concept is one icon, one application. You go in and you do all your work daily, your life expenses, like paying hydro, paying your uh, traffic tickets, buying games, donation, all in one hub. And this is also probably would be very interesting application that I want you to work on it probably, because it got all kind of a restriction and management. It was established like around 20 years ago, and it's probably you have the financial restrictions and you have the business restriction or adjustment, the financial adjustment, the technical adjustment, and the business adjustment. All of them together has to be amalgamated and becomes one thing in order to have such a business successful. So probably we'll be talking more about it, but overall we need to cover up all the requirement that is the syllabus and especially the course syllabus is required. And so I will share now with you probably the course syllabus, and then we will talk more about it. And hopefully, then later on, we will be synchronizing other information and finish up the chapter one. So in chapter one and two, my job is really to help you to learn. Is not I'm teaching, you have to learn. So there will be lots of teamwork, research, but it's not going to be very difficult. Let me go in and start explaining to you what do I mean by that. Okay. So I'm process of sharing the screen. Now let's speak about first of all uh, the syllabus. Now the course syllabus is it's as we said, is the course name is International Business Management, and it's the course code is IBM 120. As for the fall, my name is Faisal Bachari, and this is the email that you're going to see there. Uh, so you feel free to contact me, send me emails. Let's communicate a lot on all the collaboration tools. Um, Resource required is a product and service for a global market. If you can get this book, that would be wonderful. There is also, I will give you another book, which is probably you can find it much easier and it's more comprehensive. So these two main book is this one, but as a backup book, I will give it to you also. So you go with this product and service for a global market. Now, as we said, the grade is 80, 80 to 100 is an E, and B is 70 to 79, and C is 60 to 69%, and D is 50 to 59%, and F anything below the 49%. The assignment is worth of 20% of your mark, and then there is a midterm, which is worth also 20%. I try to do, all of them equally divided. And then you got the group assignment and the presentation is also 20%. Final exam is also 20%. And then you have the quiz and participation. Now, the quiz and participation, the quizzes are not as important as the participation. Now, you have two parts of the class. One class is attending the class, which is important, but the class participation, I see it as more important. So we will have some discussions. We will have some communication through the email from utilizing other application, collaboration application. Step by step, I will be introducing an application like Padlet, Kahoot, Yammer. Probably will do some Facebook, all these things, all the collaborations, because you see the issues is here. What we have in Canada, it's a new era, the most advanced way of education, and they don't teach. Mostly, we don't focus on teaching you information because information might change tomorrow. But we will work. We will teach you how to learn, and this is require some research, and then you will know for in the future that nothing can be done alone. So you need to have to learn how to do a group assignment, because these things you're going to take it outside and you start working with the team. And whether you're doing an international export and import or a business, you're still going to have to work with people. And some people you might like, some people you don't like, but you try to find the common. So I'm going to prepare you also to work on a group assignment. And for me, the group assignment and presentation is one of the most important issues, because it shows not only you understand the material, you also understand how to work in a real scenarios. So I know it would be a little bit difficult because it is online, but you need to get to know used to that, because eventually with this situation with the COVID-19, we all going to work online a lot. And the good part of that, and I tell my other students about it they are in Canada, I tell them, well, you used to rent a place for $2,000 or $1,000 just to be close to your work. Now you can have a nice place on a lake in a very beautiful sceneries, and you work from online twice a week or three times a week, which is gives you the total freedom. So it's important for you to get used to the new era. And I've done that over 20 years, where I had no options, which is I will explain to you how did I do my work. In many cases where there were physically no teammate available with me, and that are all online on how we did it. And it's very interesting that I will share my successful stories plus non-successful stories. I don't mind to do that. And also I will share the experience of the book and the major issues that involve with some kind of concepts. So these are Keep in mind, I'm not going to introduce all these apps in the same spot. One by one, after a while, I will get you used to each one of them until you feel strong about it and start communicating well. Meanwhile, feel free to understand how the Google Classroom works and how we can, utilize it. Later on, maybe we will do one Padlet, and then you will understand how the things work, and probably will get on the Yammer and Facebook to communicate these. So I'm setting up all the systems for you just to communicate and collaborate and do your work and try to understand uh, this material furthermore. Now, so on a week one, we will try average on every week. We will try to do at least one chapter. So on the but probably the first few chapters will be very lots of material impact with it because it's setting up the basic things to understanding, and then step by step it's going to be lighter and lighter. Now on the first week we will be doing some introduction, which is we're doing now, and chapter one, and second week would be chapter two, third week a chapter. So according to each week, you will get, one chapter. But in the midterm, probably there would be none. And basically, the way I like to do the exams and tests is uh, overcome the fact that I would like you to understand the material well, and then you express your understanding. So my most is going to be an open book exams and tests, because it and the questions will be direct from the materials, but they will need you to understand the material well in order to answer these questions. So probably you're going to have something like a 5 question answer three for the quiz, and probably you're going to have 10 question answer 10 for the midterm and the final. When it's come to the assignment, there is an individual assignment, as I said, and there is a group assignment. The final exam probably going to be uh, in a week 12, hopefully, instead of week 13, because then it's going to give me enough time to really correct your exams and everything. Meanwhile, we will be doing at least 2 to 3 assignment. One is a group assignment, as I said, and one and two probably individual assignment in the field of import or export, and in the field of very influence of the international business. Okay, so these are the whole thing. Now the concept of probably we need to work on as I said, selecting and process of developing a new product or a service, or could be a product or a service that's already available, but you want to export it or import it to the market. So we will work on the fact that how to develop your business plan, how to set up your business plan, how you do the venture in the beginning, and how to allocate the best product or the best way of the service can be done. Now, without further ado, please, there is 2 things that I will be doing every week. I will be recording the class chapter presentation, and I will be uploading it for you. And in the same time, I will be supplying you with the class note also. So sit back, relax, try to understand, and start utilize your understanding. And I think this could be a very interesting course that you will learn, where you probably gonna you have in a situation where you can do export, import, or help companies who done such businesses. Anyway, so I've already supplied you with the course outline and syllabus. Please go through them, and if you have any question, please write to me. Now, the only thing here that probably I would like to say, is ignore this part of the standard traditional deliveries because with you to testing. So here is I'm putting only dividing the assessment according to that. So please stick with this 2020, 2020, and 20. So this is how it's going to be. Now, probably going to be two, as we said, two assessment because we need to do a lot of some work with each others to come up with a presentation. The way of you're supposed to deliver, I'm kind of an open-minded. You can preferably that you can write back, or you can do it as a demo or presentation utilizing uh, I don't know, a YouTube podcast or Google Classroom. This is how you can do the assignments for me. So that shouldn't be any problem. Okay, so this is that, and we just want to go to the book. As we said, we mentioned that the book is probably it's called Product and Service for Global Market, the 7th edition. But I will also utilize a book which is called, and I will post it for you, the name of it, which is this one. It's called a Global Business Today, which is a very interesting and very comprehensive, has a lot of knowledge, and it's the Canadian edition. That one we're gonna use also as a backup resources, and you can find it in McGraw-Hill. So if you have access to McGraw-Hill, you can always download it and look at this book. Also, it's very interesting. Now, so as we said, we will be talking about the global business today, the 5th edition. This is as a backup, as we said, and I'm using the both materials in order to come up with the best materials that you will find it very interesting and very challenging mentally. This is a newly issued book. As I said, you can go to McGraw-Hill's and try to download it, or you can get it from somewhere else also. Now, as a startup, we will be talking about globalization. And just I want to give you a concept of why do we need to know about globalization and international business. Let's take a look at the Boeing. Um, in the opening case with the globalization product at Boeing is, if you look at the Boeing today, you would see that the fact that partially made of Italy, partially it's American company, and they do planes. I mean, everybody knows probably Boeing, but the partly made of Italy, partly was made started making up in Japan, partially was in is making in France, Germany, Sweden, and 80% of Boeing customers are foreign airlines. It helps to give the business to those. So the Boeing started in USA, but in the beginning they just were outsourcing the engine, and really there is three companies, which is one of them is the third one is Rolls Royce in UK, but everything was made in USA. Then with the globalization, they started the outsourcing, which is the other type of challenge came in the picture, which is we will talk about it later on. So right now, you will see like when you get on the plane of Boeing, you will have something made of Italy, something made of Japan, France, Germany, Sweden, and many other countries in order to put the Boeing together. Now, in today's world, the national economies are merging into interdependent economic systems. You probably less recognize that. But if I'm getting on my car and I'm driving down the road, I'm getting on my car, which is probably, it looks like an American car, but built in Canada. Now, some part of inside is made in Malaysia, and probably the seats are made in Mexico, and engine is USA. The body could be coming also from USA, and all assemble it in Canada. Plus, they added at least 55% of the productions in Canada. Now I'm on getting on my car, which is an international car. When I'm driving, I'm stopping by Starbucks. Some of you know Starbucks, a very famous coffee shop, which is basically I'm having my coffee, and my coffee is the whole concept of the Starbucks, which is the biggest coffee stores in Canada. Some of them, the whole concept came from Italy. The company was the American, and they're producing coffee in Canada. They get the beans from South America. So, as we say, things are so much interrelated and interdependent, interconnected to each other. In an interdependent economic system, usually, as we said, the barriers to cross border trade and investment are trembling. So, these days, is just these international business is just destroying these borders between them. Today is 70% of products made in Canada get export to USA, which is made of 10% of the consumption of USA, and vice versa. There is also product, and their border is so much open that the trade-off because of NAFTA, national and NAFTA stand North American Free Trade Agreement. Then it started between Canada and USA, and then Mexico moved in, and then when they started having Chile comes in the picture, that's when I did my educations, my graduate studies, first graduate study in the international business. So we wanted to integrated all the business. Okay, so so the barrier to cross the border trade and investment are trembling. Perceived distance is shrinking to the advance of transportation and telecommunication. So right now I do business with a Canadian company, which is we delivering services in Iraq and our partner in UK, and the original application was developed in Spain. So because of the telecommunication technology, things is just getting very close to each other. And when you want to deliver something, there's so many tools, so much technology of transportation, how they are integrated and very quickly they can deliver these things. Material culture is starting to look like similar in the world. Anywhere I go, I find McDonald's. There's some resemblance between them, but there is some customization. The jeans is everywhere. Everybody tries to drink coffee or tea. So there is lots of material culture. Everybody watching YouTube, something like that. Online shopping. These are all kind of a similar culture, and the national economies are merging into an interdependent global economic system. So it's all connected to each other, which is a wonderful word as became. Not 100%. Some of them is majority is a wonderful word. Now later on, we're probably going to talk about the negative part of that thing. Now, interdependent global economy, the international national institutions such as World Trade, we saw things get developed like a WTO, World Trade Organization, IMF, and World Trade Organization, and gatherings of leaders from the world. Most powerful economies have called for a even now lower barriers to cross-border trade and investment. Concurrently, we have also the world in which vigorous and vocal group protests against globalization. So if you go and watch the news, you will see the country's leaders talking with each other on a world trade, and at the same time you will see downstairs and outside people are protesting against it because it's hurting some people and benefiting lots of people, which is fair enough. Now, so the whole international business, you need to understand the business, you need to understand the economy, you need to understand the politicians and politics in order to come up with these things. My goal also to, in order, I will give you a full picture, but also I will give you how the smaller pictures and how you set up your international trade. Now, going global is, as we said, is not without a problem. So, doing a business in a foreign or national still has a unique challenges. What sells in a Britain cannot be sold in sometimes in Thailand. So you need some customization, localization. Even when it comes to the software, we had to do localization, customization, and we will tell you a few funny stuff later on about what's happened to us in the beginning when we started importing, for example, a French product or exporting some local product to the world. Business process maybe sometimes is difficult to implement, so it is you need to adjust your process, which is you need to adjust so many things with it. So it is has its own issue, but now you need to know what's a globalization. Globalization basically refers to the shift toward more integrated and interdependent world of economic. In the old days, you were doing your business within, for example, or India or China, and you trade it internally between cities. Here in Canada, they only trade with themselves, but actually, they were a trade between state and Canada in the beginning of establishing these two countries. But because there is no border and there is lots of similarities, but in the USA, they were, trading inside, like from a state to a state. But eventually, things had moved on, and everybody had supposed to have some kind of an open border. A globalization unfold. It is a transforming industry and creating anxiety among those who believe their job were protected from foreign competition. People who usually don't like the globalization is the fact they have a feeling that their job is lost, and this is why there is, trying to protect it. And that's why sometimes you hear Donald Trump talks a lot about making America great again, and actually he's he's trying to bring back the jobs. Maybe these jobs are it's it is bring back it's a cliche that he utilized for getting elected, but this job is way gone. Maybe not interested in USA because there would be less freedom of business, and it's very important in every country. So, and these jobs probably they would not lots of people not interested to do it. So it is kind of a cliche that he's using for getting re-elected again and was elected before. Anyway, we keep on. To understand, there is a several different facts, including a globalization of market, there is a globalization of production, and there is a globalization of consumers. So that we have a three type of globalization that probably from their names is like a you can really understand oh, the way of looking at them. Now, the globalization of market it refers to merging of separate nation market into one huge global marketplace. The best example, probably Canada and States, or Ireland and UK and Scotland. These are all becomes one marketplace, one global, or even a European trade bloc or EU. Now, uh, it's low cost of transportation, more economical to ship products around the world, and there is a low cost of global communication networks such as the World Wide Web are helping to create more electronic marketplace. So, what is a globalization? Again, we talked about the market now. Globalization of product production refers of the sourcing of goods and services from a location around the world to take advantage of national differences, costs, and quality of factor production. So we might have a Ford or any other, or a Boeing, as we said, and they utilize the production different location to do the production because of certain source such as manpower, the skills, or the uh, products that available there, which is lowering the cost or making it and lowering the cost of the transportation. As the transportation costs associated with the globalization of production decline, the spectral of production of geographical widespread location becomes more economic. So, as I said, GM, Toyota, Honda, Ford, they all have independent locations in Canada, which they produce their cars here, and this is where the production it could be uh, consumed in Canada or sent internationally. And we have the third type is a globalization of customers and refer to merging of separate national markets into one huge global market, which is like the Levi's, which is they produce the jeans for all lots of markets in the same standard, or even Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and you can have because they becomes same consumer when it comes to that product or services. Now, because of in the after Second World War II, there was a tendency of all the countries open up for each other. So we have, as a market, globalized business activities and transcend borders. The borders is gone. Institutions need to help and manage these marketplace. So there were something start establishing to help them to do the trade, to go and produce overseas and all these things. So the first thing that's have established was United Nations in 1945. We have a tendency to think about United Nations about the politics, but actually it's more than that. They train, they do. As we said, I worked for United Way. We were as a we run as a semi-private company where we help the new settlers to settle and do business here. The, After that, we saw that the World Trade Organization established because of we established the GATT, which is we would be talking about it. It's about the trade happening between different countries, and according to that, then we had WTO established, and then we have something which is IMF or International Monetary Fund, which is you probably heard of it, and we will be also talking about that on a more details in the on the chapters. And then you have the World Bank, which is a bank which is belong to the world, which is they can help the others to, if they are going down for some inflation or the dollar is going, their currency going down, they can come in and fix up with the conditions involved in it. So you can check WTO.org in online, but the World Organization is primarily responsible for policing the world trade system and making sure that nation states adhere to the rules laid down in a trade treaty signed by WTO members. So they are looking after the doing the business is right, the trade is doing right. That's the goal of WTO, and they established after, as we said, GATT to policing the GATT, and World Trade is essential of world trade referee for the countries wanting to grieve the parties to trade agreement have broken the agreement. So there might be, some kind of a broken agreement. So you can speak to the WTO and they can tell you whether who is supposed to have the right. And we will talk about it in the chapter 6 later on. Now, IMF, and in IMF, the word bank were both created in 1944. So the International Money Fund and World Bank in 1944 was established, and IMF was to maintain order in the international monetary system, help countries deal with their erratic exchange rate, so that if the rate goes down, they can pump in some dollars there or foreign currency, so they can help them in the exchange rate. And the World Bank was promoted for economic development, so development, especially after the war or the natural disaster, they come in and they give loans, and they will be or fund sometimes in order for them to develop the infrastructures or to set up the businesses. International monetary funds, and I will probably give you put it on a Padlet and information on that later on next week or something. So I wanted to get your feedback on how you feel about IMF. The IMF is often seen as a lender of a last resource to a nation state whose economies are in a turmoil and currency are losing value against those of the other nations. So they are in trouble, countries get in trouble, and they don't have enough funds to really stabilize themselves. So they go and get the money. But the point is being that if a country has a currency that is of a small value, it makes it hard for them to trade with other countries. In other words, it is sometimes they might have troubles of exporting and importing. And you know how the currency is internationally stable when the demand for your money is equal with the demand for other people as a country for other money. So that's what stabilize your exchange and its effect on the global trade. So if you are consuming as a country and importing more than exporting, your demand for your currencies will be less demanded. So your currencies goes down because so much is available in the market, and the other currencies goes high. Now, international money fund, the IMF loans comes with a string, so they're not going to give the countries free money. There is some kind of issues has to be involved with it. Excuse me. They have to make sure that there are certain rules they have to adopt, which is lots of countries disagree with that. They'd say we don't want to do that. So we had a case in tiger countries. For example, Malaysia refused their fund because there's so many restrictions we're putting on them to get the money. But on the other hand, you would see countries like Philippines took the money and were stuck for a few years. They were having a hard time to meet their requirements. So if a country doesn't have that requirement, they might not get that money for. And return the loan, the IMF, as we said, require adopt specific policy aimed at returning their troubled economies to a stable and growth. These strengths have generated the most debate. Some of them, they said, well, it's, hurting the country, hurting the freedom, hurting, independency. And some critics chart that IMF policy recommendations are often inappropriate. The World Bank is not one single entity, but It's made of so many breakdown, and I put the link there just for you. If you're interested, you can go and see how many of them. So we have the organization called IBRD, or the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. And then we have IDA, which is International Development Association. And we have IFC, which is International Finance Corporation. We have a multilateral investment guarantee agencies, MIGA, and the International Center for Settlement and Investment Dispute, and they're all under the World Bank umbrella. The World Bank most often it is the IBRD that involved with the international business opportunity for Canadian companies. uh, Canada's Deputy of Foreign Affairs has a section on their website providing an overview of steps a company must take to be involved in World Bank. So it's not only built for the countries, is through a countries where a small business, mid-size and large business can have access to these funds. Now, the diverse of globalization is declining the barrier to the free flow of goods, service, and capital since the World War II, War II, and the technology change in communication, information, process, and transportation. So these are the drivers where they did. Probably eliminate some of the borders between countries is the technology and free flow of goods and services and capital. Decline in barriers, in addition, reducing the trade barriers like custom and all these things. Many countries have also been progressively removing some restriction to foreign direct investment. So you're not only declining the barriers, they're also trying to get as much as they can from foreigner investment to come and invest in their countries. And lots of countries have been growing or surviving because of the foreigner and direct investment in them. So, declining in barriers, the lowering of barriers to the international trade enable the firms to view the world rather than a single country as a one market. So, once these trade barriers goes down, you would see like it's a one country. So here, when you go to the market, you don't recognize between the American products and the Canadian products unless you see the back of it, some kind of a very small uh, uh, sign or something saying that made in Canada or made in USA, because the trade barriers went so low. Now, the lowering of a trade and investment barrier also allows firms to base production at the optimal production for that activity, serving the world market from that location. So, if you wonder why Ford becomes an open in Canada or Chevy opens a branch in Mexico, or Boeing opens a branch in UK. The reason is sometimes you need to, find the optimal location for serving that part of the customer section. And the issues, for example, Oracle is an international software, or Microsoft an international, operating system. You will see lots of locations having worldwide, and the reason is because they want to serve these people much, much, much better to you. Now, a firm might design to a product in one country, a product component part in the other two countries, assembles the country yet in other countries, and then export. So they might be the management, for example, in a state, the production in no in South Korea, the export is Vietnam, and production itself, which is in South Korea, is coming from partially Canada, partially countries around it, Japan, and all these things. So the whole is one global. And the technology, definitely, technology changes are lowering the issues also. So, uh, sorry about that. The lowering of the trade barriers made the globalization of market and production a theoretical possible. So, globalization happening because of the technology, the speed of technology, and the lowering the trade barriers. And the technology change has made it is a tangible reality. So since the end of World War II, the world has been a major advance in communication, information processing, transportation, and explosive emergency of internet. So because of the WWW or World Wide Web, because of the PCs, I don't have an issue of communicating and transferring information or processing information that somewhere in Middle East or in Africa or in India to communicate with them and set up. So as we said in the beginning, right now we're setting up a business which is the application. It's in Spain. The the front end company is in Canada, and the consumers in Kuwait. And because of the this process, it's opened up everything for you. Technological change, where we know fewer than 1 million in 1990s, they were connected. I was one of these people, probably in the mid of 90s. I had my first email. It was interesting. That probably you can check in. It used to be called a Rocket Mail, which is owned by now by Yahoo, but before it was a Rocket Mail. So I still, 1995 or 1994, I had my first email in that time. Now there were in 2014 there is 3 billion internet users. So if you've seen the changes that's happening very, very quickly in amazing way, and allow the business to work very quickly. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk about it is technology to transportation. You know, the transportation, there was a different way of doing the transportation. One of the things, like for example, there is a railways, there is airline, there is a road, but not only that, the technology of transportation has made a big change. Now, for example, if you look at the Qatar, is one of the richest countries as a GDP, great gross domestic product, but individual, and because they implemented the technology how to change the gas to that they can ship it. They utilize that technology and start shipping it through the big shipment, big boats, and all these things. And just because of the technology, they became improving and implementing the new technology. They became one of the richest and the biggest exporters of gas worldwide. So these are the information. Things is moving up and down. United States, where it was, and then how much output they were producing and how much export. And if you notice that these are keep changing with the time of the as the time passed by. So now we will see that the China is comes to the second. Soon it would be India passing Germany's in the export and development. So, when we are looking at Canadian export to major trading partners, we will see that first is USA, and then comes in China, then Japan, and this is in the $1 million. And so we're talking about 23 billion dollars worth of, for example, trade with USA, and then European Union, and then Mexico. The non-agricultural products, also USA comes first, and then European Union, and then China, and then Mexico and Japan the last. So if you notice that there is the changing of demographic of the global economy, causing the changing, shifting in the major trade partners also. So it's not only exporting and importing. You have also the foreigner direct investment, which is considered to be is type of on the balance sheet as a revenue. And when a foreigner comes in and puts his money in, that's he's doing the investment in the country. And one of the biggest income that for Canadians and for the Americans is, especially America, is foreigners are investing inside the state. The largest recipients direct investment has been China, and it was in 2004 received like $60 billion to $100 billion of cash inflow, but it still stays on the top now because of the many reasons, which is one of them political reasons and economic reasons and transparent. All these things that makes the states as one of the heaven to invest. Maybe the revenue is not as high, but they still, for example, if you compare it to Russia, the return on investment not as high, but the transparency is very high. So that makes it more interesting to do that. Also, the political reason, the rise of money multinational. Now the question says you're thinking about it, okay, so you keep talking about mid-size to a large-size company. What about us who have a small to medium-sized companies? And actually you can do it. You can produce something in India or in China, small company, you set up your international connection, and you will find uh, probably probably uh, start, doing the business. This is a sign saying that, probably we're kind of in the end of doing that presentation. But we're in the middle, actually. As a small or medium business, you always can, lots of companies who's connected to the an international companies, or they can be a trade, do the trade with the international companies. So they don't feel that because you have a small or mini or mid-sized company that you're not allowed to do a trade with these large with these countries. We have a lot of border companies who is only sells for USA, and vice versa. Lots of border companies who only sells to Canada, and they are made to small size multinational companies, which is the multinational. So, as examples, in Canada, you probably International Road Dynamics of Saskatchewan. You never heard of this province. It's Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is a province, one of the Canadian province. And you have the Ice Culture, Ontario, and you have the Garmina Technology in British Columbia. They're all small to mid-sized companies who is doing a trade worldwide and doing a business worldwide. So the changing world order, the economies of most of the former, after the Eastern Bloc falls situation, things kept changing, and they started to move to socialize or open market, or it's depend on it. And they start, some of them are doing well and some of them are not doing well. And we will talk more details about these countries who is part of the old Soviet Union, and some how they are evolving around it. Definitely, there is a lot of investment there. You can invest a lot, but because and there is a high revenue, but because the transparencies, some restrictions, some culture some cultural problem, you might not, and investors does not is not willing to invest there. Now, more quiet revolution is that's happening in India, China, and Latin America. They are growing quietly, but very quickly and very big, and makes these markets very interesting. And very soon you will see that China, following the India, that becomes the market leaders as a GNP and a very good situation, GDPs. So we would see there is a shift in the industrial superpower, probably more even rapidly than Japan did. We see shift very quickly to China, and China and India continue to move progressively greater free to free market reform. Now, with them is South Africa, sorry, South Africa, and probably Brazil. These are some of the countries who is really progressing very quickly in this the field of the business. Throughout most of Latin America, debt and inflation, they were down. So the inflation and debt, it can hurt any country, and government are start selling the state-owned enterprise to privatize, and make investor comes and invest in them. And this is most of the countries start open up for foreign investment, which is as welcome, and the region economics are growing rapidly. Now, in the time I was, doing my international business, that was when Russia became Russia, not Soviet Union, and suddenly we found out that McDonald's are giving us so many hockey sticks, and probably they're useless hockey sticks. And the hockey sticks, it's the piece of wood that they play hockey with it. And the reason because McDonald's was so excited to open restaurants in Russia, but the problem came in here. Russia had nothing to give back to McDonald's, so they had with the revenue that they generated, they needed to buy something to export it to North America, especially in the States. And all they did, they bought potatoes, but potatoes wasn't, they wanted to way to get out their money from there, but Russia was in a stage not allowing people are getting their out money because that's their money were going down. So the issues were they had to buy something exported, and they had no issue but finding these cheap, fast broken bricks up hockey sticks. So when an investor goes there and he puts money, he has to know what's his exit plan, what's costing him. And this is how the foreign investors will be investing that. But most of the countries are welcoming the foreign investment. And the region economies are growing rapidly. Now, it is very interesting to follow up with the situation that is happening with the COVID 19 and how some economics are going down and some of them are growing faster and bigger with the situation. So these countries are kind of connected with each other, and things is, uh, balancing up with each other. Now, the globalization debate, this is the negative side, is the anti-globalization is saying that it's a harmful effect on a job and income. So some people you would say they're coming, especially in Europe or in North America, less in Canada, but mostly in the USA. People go out and says we lost our jobs because of this globalization, and companies are moving outside. Some of it is true, and to the less extent. And for example, the issues that happening, for example, with the free trade, NAFTA, all these companies who were trading between USA, Canada, they started feeling the pressure of lowering their costs. So what they did, they went and established some kind of production factories in cheaper countries, where they it's a Canadian product, but it produced, for example, in Vietnam, exported to USA, or vice versa. So even with this free trade, you saw lots of money goes out because they want to establish somewhere which is cheaper. Now they're harmful, so it's harm on income, affect the income, affect the job. It's also some countries don't follow the international labor policies, and they have some sweatshops, environmental impact. Also, we see some countries who is they don't care about the gas exporting, affecting the environment. They probably factories goes and established there. That also affect the national sovereignties. Once foreign investment, they have to come with their money and their conditions. So makes probably the word a little bit poor. That's how they look at it. But overall, the globalization, jobs, and income, there has been an evidence of outstanding Canadian jobs to developing countries, with the fears that outsourcing these jobs of Canadian job to developing country, with the fears that these process will have a longer term harmful effect on Canada well-being as a whole. See, the whole thing is like saying, okay, we're losing um, not only entry level jobs, we're also losing some advanced job, and that's how they look at it. But overall, any advanced country should move from production oriented to service oriented. That will sustain their business also. So, according to IDC Canada forecast, Canadian IT outsourcing reached to $15 billion in 2010, representing a growth of approximately 3.8% from 2000. In 1 year, $15 billion were start doing the business outside the IT business of Canada. Um, which is some of them they see it as a normal that makes Canadians more stronger in the future and building the future, and some of them will don't see that. But overall, if you notice that there is a good replacement now, Canada is one of the most advanced countries in the education. So we now we have a lot of foreigner students comes in here to do their education, and this is another business which is in the field of the services. So one source of concerns also is the free trade encourage the firms from the advanced nation to move to manufacturing facilities to less developed countries, as we said, that lot of lack of adequate regulation to protect laborers. And we spoke about it, and we see lots of news about the sweatshops, the shops that they pay very minimum to the people to make them work very hard, and because there is no rules on regulation supervising these sweatshops in the third world countries. But in managing over all this introduction, it comes to the point of how we can manage in the global marketplace. Now, if we don't have an eyes of exporting our service and product, or worry about this international company comes in and take over, then we will be stepped on very quickly. So we need to establish our strength in the task of managing an international business. So managing in a global market, you need to establish your strength in the international business. Sometimes you don't have business in your country, but you can export always, or you can import from outside, and you can be one step ahead of everybody. The difference between countries that require an international business vary its practice country by country. So some countries require so much customization and so much localization, and some of them have less. For example, in Middle East, probably there's more than probably in a country like a Philippine, which is in consideration of doing a Canadian business there, or Canadian business in Canada and USA, compared to, for example, doing the business in China. The cross-border transactions also requires that money are converted from firm to firm. And I brought very good example of money should be easy. These investors should or these managers should have an exit plan and also should know how to get their money once they invest and make profit. And I brought an example of the McDonald's going to Russia and getting a cheap hockey sticks, which is they had no plan of how to get their dollars or their money back out of the country. Now is a very easy, so you can get your money back. So here is this in this chapter we spoke about an introduction about the business and the feeling of how to be in the international businesses. On the next chapter, we'll talk more about each task, each effect on the details, and also talk about the managing in the global business, which is this is where would be most of our assignment geared toward utilizing these information to establish an international trade business or export import business, something that field. Now, I will be, as we said, you will get this posted, and you will get the video posted for you, and then probably we let me know that if you have any question, you can always send me an email. I'll be glad to respond to your answers. Okay, you have a nice day, and I think in this case, probably I'll see you on a next class. I look forward. You look forward for um, uh, looking forward for what I'm gonna post on it. Okay. You have a good day and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye bye.